This is the 5th episode of our 5-part Princess Chronicles decorating series. Today's cookies feature pastel green. I will show you what happens when you forget what you're doing, how not to act when things don't go well, and use piping tips for the first time. I've got my pretty pink edible marker and I'm changing up the style of this dress once more, being careful not to go too close to the edge of the cookie so I don't have any difficulty covering up the marker. So far, so good. Since seeing beyond the original design is difficult for me, for my reference, I have an inspiration picture in front of me on my phone. Now for the icing. But first things first. I turn my bag seam facing up, smooth out the tip, and nip off a teeny bit of the end. I attempt to start and immediately see that I haven't cut off enough to allow my icing to flow out easily. To avoid icing mess, I wipe off the tip with a moist paper towel and cut just a tiny bit more. It's pretty obvious, but I'll state it anyway. Always better to cut smaller and increase if you need to. It beats having to rebag the icing. You may be already able to tell that I intend to use the same flooding in sections technique that I have employed all throughout the series. I like this technique. It gives the cookie a very polished look, and while it really does take a lot longer to complete the cookie because you have to allow each section to lightly crust over for a bit before moving on, I think it's worth the wait. I choose to do a little loop there at the bottom just so that I don't have to pull my bag up completely off of the surface to make the ruffle indent. I simply go right over it with the flood icing. Now I grab my new PME scribe to settle the icing. If you saw the episode of the series where I decorated this dress in white, you know how I'm feeling about this new addition to the decorating team. It really does a nice job of dragging the smallest bit of icing to just where I need it. I am still staying away from the edge of the cookie a bit with my icing. I'm not confident enough to tempt the icing to fall over the edge. I'm okay with this look for now, but I most definitely will be working toward improving my skills well enough to get the icing to hug the edge so that none of the cookie shows around the edges. I always have a little container with moist paper towels and a wet sponge next to me to clean off my scribe or the swivel between cookies. The one thing I don't like about this scribe is that it arrived a little bent on the end, so I'm trying to straighten it out a bit here without breaking it. Do you remember a couple of minutes ago when I said I intend to use the same flooding in sections technique that I've used all throughout this series? The key word there is intend. Merriam-Webster defines intend as to have in mind as a purpose or goal. So having that in mind, what am I doing? Flooding in sections requires that a gap be placed between sections to allow each to crust over slightly before adding in new icing next to it, creating the look of a seam between each section. This is not that. And I realize this, unfortunately, just after I start the actual flooding. If I had just done the outline, I probably could have gotten away with it, but now I'm committed. This cookie is not going to be at all how I envisioned, and that's okay. Instead of getting irritated as I would have a couple of months ago, I'm learning how to roll with the punches and look at this mistake as an opportunity to work out my creativity muscles, which, by the way, are pretty weak, so they're gonna need lots of reps to strengthen. It is interesting how that works. You may not have really thought about that in relation to creativity before. I know I haven't. But I can tell you that I have experienced my creativity increasing over the last few months of decorating. I see more creative opportunities that I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have seen previously. Here is a perfect example of what I mean. I was watching a decorating video this weekend from the Little Cookie Co., where she was icing baby-themed cookies. And without any trying to be creative, it just popped into my head, what if I made a Christmas-themed baby set and called it Santa Baby? Now I have all sorts of ideas flying around my brain about how to make it. 6 months ago, no way, wouldn't have happened. It is making it a little difficult for me to focus on Humble Bee, the next series I'm doing. Here's a little sneak peek. I already have the cookies cut, baked, and in the freezer. It features hexagons, honeycombs, flowers, and of course bees. And I just started making the icing for it today. For this one, I scoured Google and YouTube for ideas. I'll be trying out some techniques I haven't tried before, like cutting my piping bag so it can make crinkly leaves and using a stencil. Though I have tried this once with a friend, this will be the first time on my own. I also got some ivory gel color to use, which I'm really excited about because I haven't ever used ivory before. My understanding is that it mutes colors, making them less bright. A definite must to ensure I don't end up with neon honey. This is the first time I've tried showing the decorating fairly up close from 2 different directions. I think I like it this way. Though I do believe I need to adjust the angle of the side shot a bit. I've been struggling for a while with how not to have my hand right in the middle of the cookie blocking the view while I flood. And though I have tried adjusting the overhead shot as well as tilting my bag a bit to attempt to get my hand out of the way, I've been unsuccessful thus far at achieving the look I want. I think having the side view helps a bit with that. What do you think? You can see here where there is still just a little bit of an indent between a couple of the sections. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure why I didn't just flood the rest of the cookie in one shot. I have to laugh at myself a little bit. It's pretty funny looking back. You will see here in a minute that the top has a little bit of an indent where it meets the bottom as well, because it had already started to crust by the time I got to the flooding of the top. I have another question for you. Typically, I speed up the decorating, sometimes pretty darn fast. Do you have a preference? Should I speed it up like I did in the yellow episode, or keep it like I have it here at 100% super slow? This is how long it really took me speed. I do cut out most of the extra time between transitions though. Any feedback you can give me to consider to help me deliver the best viewing experience for you is absolutely welcome. Making these videos is a ton of fun for me, but it's not enough for me to just have fun. I want you to be able to have some fun watching as well. I do like the color of this green. I was asked to make pastel colors, but everyone's idea of pastel is different. Is this more of a pastel or of a baby color? Is there a difference? I hope the colors I came up with are what the girl who asked me for these cookies has in mind. I've let the cookies sit in my dehydrator on the lowest setting for about 15 minutes, so now it's safe to pipe some details on top of the lightly crusted icing surface. As with all of the cookies so far in the series, I use a soft peak piping consistency for the details on the dress. To make my consistencies, I first take fresh icing, color it to my liking, and then add water as needed to get the different consistencies I need for my different applications. In looking at this cookie, it's pretty obvious I need to cover up the areas that were affected by my dingy moment. So I start by trying to mimic where the seams would have been and pipe lines there. And it looks okay, but I'm not really satisfied with it. It kind of looks messy and not particularly thought out. And that's most likely because it wasn't thought out. And now it all starts to go really downhill. I did this cookie a week ago, and I can honestly tell you, I have absolutely no idea what I was trying to accomplish here. But it's bad. I hesitate to even say I decorated it a week ago, because I think when you use the word decorate, that indicates it looks good. This doesn't qualify. In fact, watching what I'm doing now, the word kindergarten comes to mind. Literally, just watch a 5-year-old draw a picture. It starts off with some lines that form some kind of basic intentional shape. However clear that is to the observer's eye is always up for debate. Then after the shape has been drawn, this happens. Scribbles all over that are complete nonsense. So now that it's obvious that this cookie will not be included in the 2 dozen for the birthday party they're intended for, I thought I'd try that pressure piping I did wrong in the purple episode. Yay, I did it! Though I'm not exactly irritated, I definitely appear to be having some sort of forget it moment. I have reverted to childish behavior. I am so proud. Earlier, I asked you if you prefer to have these videos done in real time or if having them sped up is preferable. So this one is at 4 times speed so that you may compare. Spoiler alert, this second cookie comes out much better, which is to be expected when things go according to plan. In fact, all of the rest of the cookies I made that night came out just fine, which gave me a sigh of relief because, as you may recall, these cookies are actually going to someone. A couple of months ago, I planned and executed a set of cookies that were just awful. Though thankfully, they weren't for anyone outside of my house. And they were so bad, I actually named the 2 episodes where I talk about the cookies Icing Ugly Cookies and Ugly Cookie Club. Fortunately, since then, I haven't felt like any of the cookies were ones that I'd like to hide from the world. It's funny though. I don't mind sharing my ugly cookies with you, but when I take them to work to eat on my break, I don't want anyone to see them. Isn't that silly? I'm guessing that is mostly because here you get a full commentary on the experience of decorating these cookies, whereas at work I play a little saga in my head that as someone walks by and sees my cookie, I assume that they are thinking how awful my decorating is. And if they did, they would be right. But are they really thinking that? And does it really matter? No, it doesn't. But my immature ego takes over and I am thus far powerless to its suggestion. That too is a work in progress. It is really neat to me how very minor changes in the way the icing is laid down completely changes the look of the cookie. What I mean is, if you compare the way the lines are basically drawn on this cookie versus, say, the purple colored dress, I think they each have a different feel to them. The green one seems like it's for an older teenage girl or young adult. The purple one looks like it's more for a tween, 11 years old or so. Well, at least it does to me. Who knows these days? Contemporary fashion seems to be requiring less and less material as the years go by. Honestly, it makes me a little sad. Next, play around with piping tips. I have this set of tips and have no idea what does what, so I play around on my now officially dubbed experiment cookie to see what happens. I can tell that the icing I'm using is a little loose and wants to melt into itself a bit. I could take the icing out of the bag and mix in some powdered sugar to stiffen it up, but I'm only doing a few of these rosettes and I think it looks good enough. It's pretty amazing how adding something so simple can totally upgrade the look of the whole design. Well, we have come to the end of the Princess Chronicles series, but not really. Last minute, I ended up making one more color. See you next time.
Next time on Kuny's Cookie Chronicles.
This is the bonus episode of the Princess Chronicles. Today, I thicken up my royal icing, try brush embroidery for a 3rd time, and experiment with a few new last-minute details.